All right, we're back another Saturday. Hello, Julius. Welcome back to our audience. We're here, our Black Media Network, and Watch Dogs at Noon.
Hello. We got a cast out here today from all over the state. We got the uh, Alicia Thomas Searcy running for state superintendent of schools of education. We got Ms. Sandra Farley running for public service commission, and we got the Honorable Floyd Griffin, ex-mayor of Milledgeville, running for secretary of state. And
Yes.
Robert got some tough questions and stuff all for y'all. No, I'm just playing. We don't ask questions. We'll do that here.
We might, though.
Have
It
a
depends.
conversation.
The only person that gets a pass is Chandra because she's running for PSC. And so, uh, I'm going to be light on Chandra. I don't know about the other two.
Hey, we can handle it.
Oh, come
There you
on.
go.
I'm talking about AKA. Hey, you're the Alpha brother here. I forgot. You got the pink and green. I got the black and gold. So you look like Floyd. You're in the hot seat by yourself, brother.
Speed brother.
That-
Speed
Hey, look, I've been there and done this, so
That's true.
bring
What
it,
you say?
bring
You
it
ain't never
on.
scared.
Bring it on.
All right.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah, Julius. I think if you all, I want to remind you all, we got a lot going on and a great cast. So if we could make sure we're mindful of that as we do introductions. If y'all could kind of tell us in a brief, less than a minute, kind of who you are and what you're running for and what made you decide to jump into the race for this particular role. And we can start with you, Chandra.
Oh, I lost my screen. Okay, sounds great. Sorry, I lost my screen. Thank you so much, Robert and Julius, for the opportunity to be here this morning. I am Chandra Farley, and I am the Democrat running for Georgia Public Service Commission. I am running to represent District 3, which covers Fulton, Clayton, and DeKalb. However, this is a statewide race, so everybody in the state votes for every commissioner. The Public Service Commission decides where our energy comes from and how much we pay for our utilities. And for too long, the Public Service Commission has made decision after decision that increases our bills, harms our health, and protects the utility monopoly. Well, I am running to change that. As the People's Commissioner, I intend to be a voice for all Georgians, the people who feel the impact of commission decisions on our households, our incomes, and our future every single day. If I'm chosen as the next Public Service Commissioner, I will be a voice for affordable bills, clean energy that benefits all Georgians, not just the utility, environmental justice, and utility accountability. The benefits that flow from these priorities depend on a new voice and a new way at the PSC. And that is what I will bring to the Public Service Commission.
All right.
All right.
If we could go to Alicia, if you could tell us and briefly who you are and what made you jump into the race.
I think you're muted, Alicia.
Yeah.
Sorry. Try that again. Hello, everybody. I'm Alicia Thomas Searcy, formerly Alicia Thomas Morgan, for those that may follow politics. I'm the first African-American elected to the Georgia House of Representatives. I'm from Cobb County, and I served for 6 terms. I'm also a former superintendent of schools. I ran a network of public charter schools in the metro Atlanta area. And I'm running for state school superintendent for a number of reasons. Number one, I think teachers need a champion. They're frustrated, feel very unheard, and we've asked them to do a lot, and given them a little. I also want parents to be much more empowered in our education system. We've got to fix our special education system for those parents who have students with special needs. And then I'm also running, real quick, when I think about our education system and how broken it is, frankly, for too many of our kids across the state. It's also old and dilapidated. I have a 15-year-old. My husband and I we have 2 other school-age children. And if you look at schools and how they were in 1700s and look at how they are right now, not a whole lot has changed. And so I'm running so that we can stop trying to deliver a telegram education to a TikTok generation. And we have to have a state school superintendent who's experienced. I'm a former state legislator, former superintendent. I've turned schools around. And frankly, we've not had a superintendent who's had my level of experience. And if we're going to fix our schools, we got to have that. And so that's why I'm running. We got to make history again. I want to be the first African American state school superintendent. But more important than that, I want to reimagine our public schools in Georgia.
Awesome. Floyd, we'll go to you next, my friend.
Thank you very much. First of all, for having me and my other good friends. That a couple of them I've known for years, and the new persons that's running, and I want to congratulate them. I am driving, and I'm going to try to pull over in a better place. I was in a stationary location, but I'm going to pull over in a few minutes. I am Floyd Griffin. I am the next Secretary of State. I'm letting everybody else run, but I am the next Secretary of State. I'm from Millersville, Georgia. I am a retired Army colonel. Spent 23 years in the Army and worked my way up through all of the major type assignments you would expect a colonel to have, to include the Pentagon, managing over several $1 billion worth of construction and contracts. That was my field in the Army Corps of Engineers. Plus, I flew helicopters in Vietnam and for a number of years in the Army. After retiring from the Army, I moved back to Millersville, my hometown, to my family business of funeral service. I'm a licensed funeral director in Balma. And after being back 3 years after being back in Millersville, after being gone for 28 years, I ran for the state senate. And that was a historical election because not only I became the first African American senator.
I think Floyd's going to have to get someplace with some stable internet.
Yeah. Floyd, we're not hearing you. We may have to move on to the next person. Okay. We're going to go ahead and mute him, and Christian will come back. Yeah, we're not hearing you. We're going to move to the next person. Christian, if you go ahead and do the same. Briefly,
unmute yourself.
Yeah, unmute yourself, share who you are, and kind of why you decided to run for this role.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. First, thank you all for the invitation and the opportunity to come on and introduce myself. I appreciate it. My name is Christian Wise Smith. I'm running for Attorney General, and I'm running because it's personal to me. It involves the criminal justice system, and I grew up in the criminal justice system. I grew up seeing my mom, my grandmother, and so many other family members and friends be arrested and go through the system. When I was 7, I saw my grandmother get arrested in front of me and stripped down to her underwear by police. My mom, I witnessed her get arrested several times. One of my Uncle Steve Wise is serving a life sentence for murder. Another one of my uncles, Keith Wise, passed away in 2008. He was 46 years old. He was addicted to crack cocaine, and he was constantly in and out of the system. My Uncle Franklin actually passed away this week. He served 9 years in prison for drug trafficking. He was only 56 years old when he passed this week. So growing up, I saw many, many more stories like that. My mom actually lost custody of me growing up. I got kicked out of school in high school. I slept on friends' floors. I even slept in my car sometimes. I was selling stolen clothes out of the trunk of my car and came very close to selling drugs to survive. I had to pay rent and bills for the first time when I was 15 years old. And I never thought that I would graduate from high school. I thought that I was one of those kids I heard dead or in jail before 21 my entire childhood. So fortunately, I was able to overcome all of that, be the first in my family to graduate from college. Then I went on and got a master's degree before getting a law degree. And oddly enough, with the background that I have, I ended up becoming a prosecutor in 2013. And during that first year, I got a 17-year-old kid who was arrested for drug possession. And it felt like I was looking in the mirror of myself at that age. And I remember asking that kid where he saw himself in 10 years. And he said he wanted to play in the NFL. So I made him aware, just like I did, thousands of other kids who I saw in the courtroom, that if you get convicted of a drug charge, you can't get federal money for college. And if you're in college, you get convicted of a drug charge, they take your FAFSA away. So I went before the judge and I created a diversion program on the spot for him and said, hey, Your Honor, if he does these three things, I still want to give him the chance to have the life he says he wants to have, and I'll dismiss his case. And so he did everything, and I did. The following year, his mom sent me an email and said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but last year you gave my son a chance. I want to let you know it's not in vain. He's playing junior college football out in Oklahoma, doing great in the classroom, doing great on the field. In 2015, she called me and said, hey, he transferred to the University of Tennessee and he has a chance to start. Just saying thank you for giving my son a chance. In 2016, she called again and said, man, you got to come to a game. You got to come and experience this with us. You are a big reason as to why he has this opportunity. So my kids and I went to a game. That was his junior year. His senior year, I went to 3 of his games in 3 states. But most significantly, I went to his graduation and saw him get a bachelor's degree in communications. I tell that story for 2 reasons. One, it helped me accomplish my why. My why for going to law school was to be the difference between at least one black man going to college instead of going to prison. But then 2, I actually got reprimanded for creating that diversion program for him by my supervisor at the time, who told me, as prosecutors, we are not social services, we're not counselors. Our job is to get convictions and bring money in the door. And I said, are you kidding me? We just had the opportunity to change this kid's life and his family and his community, everybody he'll come into contact with because of the foundation that he has. And so I knew that with my personal background, in my 10 years of being an attorney, I have not met a lawyer who's had to overcome what I did just to be in this arena. And then with my professional background, working as a prosecutor for 7 years, I understood in ways that I don't think anybody else has before, that for low-level and nonviolent offenses, if we pair those folks with the resources and opportunities and partner with community partners, we can start to see those folks live better lives, and we can reshift our priorities to focus on more violent and serious crimes. So that's why I'm running for Attorney General, to change the justice system in the state of Georgia. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm going to shut up now.
No, you're good. You're good. But I do want to remind our panel, we have 4 of you. We really want our viewers to get some in-depth information. So let's be mindful of our brevity. I also run for state office, so I get it. But we're going to, we really want to make sure everybody has a fair chance to be seen and heard. So, Julius, you got the first question.
Hey, Christian gave it the whole story then.
Yeah, I'm sorry I went over time.
No,
Don't worry about it.
You're the only one. I'm gonna call y'all name in a minute, though.
We needed to hear that. People need to understand that you all are real people,
right?
Who can relate to them. We have an audience here of 38,500 people that watch us a month, and growing. This show will be repeated 4 or 5 times more, so it'll be a whole lot of people seeing you all, and what they need to do is be able to relate to you. Mm-hmm. So and that's why we have this having this conversation with you all, because people don't understand it's a new type of leadership that's growing in this country now, and it's people like you all, and it's we got to hand the baton back. But I wanted to ask Sandra about the Public Service Commission and the way that you all are elected. Why do you do? Is that something that you would want addressed for when you win that seat? Would you ask the Secretary of State or the governor to see how we, or the other state legislator, whether we can address how that process happens with the public service commissioners?
Yes, absolutely. So to start, the Public Service Commission in Georgia is unlike other commissions. So because there are actually 5 commissioners that make up the Georgia Public Service Commission. And while you have to reside in in one of 5 Public Service Commission districts to run, you run statewide. And so this is very confusing. I have known it's confusing just based on the work I've done over the last few years on resident and voter education and outreach around the importance of the Public Service Commission, which we like to say is the most important office most people have never heard of. So now there actually is a voting rights case in front of the Georgia Supreme Court about the way we elect our commissioners in Georgia. This case has been in motion for a couple of years now and in development for a few years now. And so essentially what this case is presenting is that the way public service commissioners are elected in Georgia is essentially voter disenfranchisement. So if you look at District 3, which is the seat that I am running to represent, which covers Fulton, Clayton, and DeKalb, and Rockdale prior to redistricting, which we can also talk about that.
Right.
That happened with the Public Service Commission right before qualifying, literally 2 days before qualifying, is that how has Fulton, Clayton, and DeKalb had white male Republican representation on the commission for over the last 2 decades? Well, that is because commissioners have to run statewide. And also, even though Georgia is one of 11, maybe only 12 states in the nation that elect its Public Service Commission, although in other states it's called the Public Utility Commission, and we really need to make a move to change that in Georgia as well so people know what we are talking about. Even though commissioners are elected in Georgia, the majority of our commissioners have actually been appointed by the governor. So we have actually had a commissioner resign or retire from his seat within a few days or a few weeks after an election, so the governor could appoint someone to his seat. And then they are able to run as an incumbent. Well, what happens when our people go to vote and they're not familiar with an office? They see this office on the ballot and they see an I next to someone's name. They're like, oh, well, that's an incumbent. They've done it before, without knowing, actually, no, they haven't done it before. They've actually just were appointed by the governor 3 months ago or 6 months ago. So there are a lot of civil rights, voting rights issues with the way public service commissioners are even getting into these seats that we do have to continue to raise up, even out of an election year, right? Commissioners serve 6-year terms. We generally have 2 commissioners on the ballot every 2 years. When I decided to run for Public Service Commission a couple of years ago, I was actually planning to run in 2024. However, there was an appointment due to a vacancy last year. So that is triggering a special election for the seat that I'm running for this year. So unclear whether or not this voting rights case will move in any way that will impact this election, but it will certainly impact elections moving forward, where the potential is that maybe commissioners do run only in their district.
And if I could, Julius, add to Chandra's piece around, let me tell you a part of that I, the incumbent. What happens is in Georgia, this is another silly law. In Georgia, the incumbent will always be placed first on the ballot in that particular area. So regardless of the fact that Chandra Farley, her name is ending with an F, the other person might end with a Z, but because of that incumbent status, they will still be placed before Chandra on that ballot. You see how powerful that is? It's really interesting. It makes a huge difference. Yeah. So if I could, Julius, ask of Christian Wise. Christian, one of the things I have advocated for is we've got to do criminal justice and reform that system from a federal to a state level. What are your thoughts about the idea of us focusing on violent crime, placing violent crime such as rape and murder and all of these things at a priority, and stepping back away a little bit, and not so much focusing on drugs, which is a public health issue, or traffic citations, because our violent crime has gotten way out of hand. What are your thoughts about that?
So I'll answer your question with a story of something that I saw that works that I want to bring here to Georgia. In 2018, I went out to Seattle, Washington, to study a program they created called LEAD, LEAD, Law Enforcement Assistant Diversion. And out there, if you are arrested for what I'll call quality of life crimes or survival crimes like drug possession or prostitution, instead of taking you through the traditional court system as we know, they give you the opportunity to be aligned with, if you need mental health treatment, if you need substance addiction counseling, or if you dropped out of school and you want to get a GED, or if there's certain job training you want, they allow you the opportunity to be aligned with those services to help you break out of, where you are and address the root causes of how you got there. And so by doing that, that allowed them to free up more resources and more police and manpower to focus on exactly what you just said, the violent crimes, the shootings, the rapes, the car break-ins, the things that really, we worry about being safe at night. And they also figured out a way to impact their economy. Because if you start to drive crime rates down, where you may have, people who may be suffering from homelessness or mental disabilities or drugs, and they're outside of businesses or in residential areas, well, if those people now have the opportunity to have jobs and apartments of their own, which they've had over 500 success stories like that in Seattle, when crime rates drop, property values increase. And if you are a small business owner and you're or a residential owner, whatever, once your property values start to go up, that puts more money into your pocket. So not only can we reshift our priorities to focus on the violent and serious crimes, but we'll also start to see a big change in our economy once we do that. So I think that's absolutely what we need to do. And what I plan to do as Attorney General is work with all of the local DAs and police chiefs to say, hey, let's start to work with some community partners. Let's focus on diversion programs. I'm going to be a big advocate for issuing pardons for marijuana convictions. We're starting to see states across the country do just that. We're starting to see it, be legal in other places across the country, like it is out in Seattle, where there's so many people in the state of Georgia, specifically thousands and thousands of Black people who have marijuana convictions on their records that is prohibiting them from getting jobs or getting loans for school or getting apartments or car loans. It's so detrimental to so many people. So those are some of the changes that we can start to do immediately once I take office to do just what you asked in the question: reform, reshift our priorities, and I think we'll start to see really significant changes.
Julius, looks like you got a question from Keyshawn for Ms. Searcy. I don't know if you want to read it out or you want me to. You muted.
I'm always telling people they're muted.
You were paying attention, so that's good.
How would you work to ensure our kids are taught their history and culture in spite of the laws passed by the state legislature?
Sure. And I'm happy that I'm not on mute this time. How about that? And I also wanted to say thank you and hello to my fellow panelists. We all have been on the campaign trail together, and it's good to see everybody. We all know the CRT stuff is not real, right? We know CRT is not, of course, taught in any of our K-12 schools, right. And it's a college course. But we also know that students need to know their history and understand our culture. And so the job of the state school superintendent is to take the laws that have been passed by the legislature and give guidance to school districts on how those need to be implemented. And as I also want to point out, it's why experience is so important. As a state legislator, I have passed education laws and have had to work with the Department of Education to promulgate those rules so that school districts know how to follow them. So I have experience in that area. So first, we've got to make sure that the law is interpreted in a way that protects teachers and what it is they know and what they need to teach in our classrooms. So I will make sure that there's a proper interpretation that allows them to do that and protects them. Number two, make sure that there's training in place so that they're clear on all the things that they can and will teach. I also think it's important to look at our whole curriculum, especially when it comes to social studies and history. 54% of the students who attend schools in Georgia look like the people on this screen. And so that curriculum that they receive ought to be a reflection of that. And so while we have some, I think, pretty basic standards in place to teach things like slavery and the civil rights movement, to teach Africa, etc., there's a lot more that needs to be taught to our children, a lot more that we need to do to ensure that they understand who they are and where they've come from and what we've overcome as a people. And so as state school superintendent, again, I will absolutely follow the law, but we'll make sure that we've got some really good lawyers who understand the purpose, which is to make sure our students are well educated, know their history, and can also be great thinkers and be able to discuss and talk about current events as well as they have past events.
Right, right. I'm glad you mentioned that CRT. It baffles me how Republicans have made that as a fear piece. CRT is not, like you said, it is not taught in K-12. It is a
Yes.
theoretical lens. It's a framework, right?
Yeah.
And so it just, people stop listening to everything you hear and go do your own research. Floyd, we got a question from you. Keyshawn is one of our great viewers, one of our up and coming leaders here in Chatham County. And Keyshawn asks to Floyd, the state legislature has worked to strip the position of its power due to the 2020 elections. What remaining powers would you use to ensure that we're able to vote and don't have to worry about being purged every few months?
Well, one of the things that, can you hear me now?
All right, man, we hear you loud and clear.
All right. Okay. Sorry about the interruption early on. You know, one of the things that I will do, and I have to do, is follow the law. Whether I like it or not, I will first have to follow the law. Now, this is what I'm going to do when I get in office. I will audit this current election to make sure it was fair, safe, secure, and accessible. Then I will also audit or review all of the policies that are in place from the standpoint of the question that you asked. See, I'm the type of person, based on my over 5 decades of being in executive level positions, you don't go in and say you're going to make some changes in certain areas until you really understand what was wrong, or if there anything that's wrong in those those particular areas. That's why I'm going to bring on board a staff that are experts in each one of those areas to advise me and make recommendations on how we're going to make those changes. Now, on top of the audit of this particular election and some of the other concerns that's been raised, I'm going to go around the state within the first 100 or 180 days and have listening sessions, especially in major areas, and we'll do Zoom around the state where the electorate, the voters, and the citizens can vent to me in what were some of their concerns. So that would be part of the audit and part of what changes that we're going to make once I get in office.
Awesome. We have our Honorable Jay Jones, who is the Chatham County chair for Democratic Committee and first congressional district chair. So I'm going to yield to Jay to ask some questions of you all.
Now you know I don't need to ask these good people questions. If they,
you do what you want to do, Jay. You ain't gonna holler at me.
they come on the show on a Saturday, man, I'm just more warm than welcome. I can barely.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I can barely see everybody. I'm outside, so we had a soccer game. But I'm glad that you have these candidates on the platform to share with the people, because the people need to know who is actually running for public office. Time and time again, I get questioned after question this week right here. I've been asked a ton of times who's on the ballot. So I'm glad that y'all doing what you can to get the messaging out here to South Georgia. And I appreciate it. I just came just to view and tell Robert and Julius that y'all doing a phenomenal job is making sure that we get the messaging out here for our community. And so that's it. I have no questions. I just want to make sure that everybody knew that people out here in Chatham County are watching y'all, and thank y'all for taking the time to be with us.
And Jay, if I'm correct, we are the third largest voting body in the state.
We're the fifth largest county,
right?
As far as voting block, potential voting block, and that's the key. And I think a lot of that potential has to do with what we can do to get the messaging out there for people to realize who's on the ballot. Right. And a lot of people are not voting because they don't know who's on the ballot. And so it's important that we get the messaging out there. So we're the fifth largest potential voting block in the state of Georgia.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you.
May I say something in reference to that, Robert?
Yes, sir. Yay. This is y'all's time.
Yep. As far as I'm concerned, in my election, and especially in the primary, since 5 of us are running, and there mathematically there will be a runoff. And Chatham County and the region is extremely, extremely important to my campaign because I'm the only candidate running for Secretary of State from outside of the Atlanta metropolitan area. So we're going to have to do well out here to get in the runoff. We need to elect more statewide constitutional officials from outside of the Atlanta metropolitan area. I often hear candidates and others talk about one Georgia. Well, how are you going to have truly one Georgia if you have all of the constitutional officials from the Atlanta metropolitan area? We don't have that many individuals outside of the metro area that runs anyway. So that's why Chatham County, South Georgia, Southeast Georgia, and so forth is extremely important to me. And that's why the last week in April, I had a 30-city, 5-day meet and greet bus tour to not only go to Chatham, as you all know, I came through there, and all of the other major cities in South Georgia, Southeast Georgia, and Middle Georgia, but a lot of the smaller towns and cities. And they were so glad to see a person running for statewide office to come by and say hello and ask for their vote.
Well, Floyd, when I do that again in a few years, I'm going to need to borrow your bus. Walnut wouldn't let me get on his bus. I was so upset. I had to drive to Stevens County by myself.
Keyshawn has a question for Ms. Pearson.
Okay. Well, no, he was saying he appreciate, but this is his other question, Julius.
Oh, yeah, that one.
See, I have to keep Julius in line. Y'all see why I'm here, right?
He said, what would be the policies you would implement day one that would have an immediate effect in benefiting Georgians?
I guess we'll start with Alicia.
Okay.
And it's good to see Jay, and thank you, Keyshawn, for these great questions. I love it. There are a couple of things that I want to do on day one, and I agree with Mayor Griffin that a good leader listens first and doesn't automatically start acting without really understanding the environment that they're in. But I think in the Department of Education, a few things have been missing. One is I will implement an Office of Equity to look at what's happening in schools across this state where kids are being whether it's over or underrepresented in special education, where they are attending schools that are dilapidated and unfit for our babies, where they may have a teacher quality issue or may have a teacher shortage. We want to look at all of the things that are negatively impacting student learning and student achievement. The second thing that I want to do is implement an office for teacher advocate. And I'm saying that because I mentioned earlier how important it is to give teachers a platform and a voice. I don't think they've had that. And so I want someone in my office that their sole job is to hear the concerns of teachers, address what needs to be done from the state level, and ensure that they always have an ear with this state superintendent. But I want to spend most of my time ensuring that children have what they need in our schools. We have a lot of work to do in terms of attracting and retaining high quality teachers. We've got to address teacher pay. We also have to make sure that, again, that the education that we're delivering to our children is relevant. But those are the two most important things that I will focus on day one, while also listening to educators, parents, and certainly giving voice to young people, because they know what they want and what kind of educational system they deserve.
And
Right.
I guess Julius, we'll give two people a chance to answer this and move on if that's okay.
Yes,
Christian, I
sir.
guess it'll be a chance for you to answer this.
Thank you for the question. So, my plan for the first 100 days is pretty bold. So, Georgia is a death penalty state. All death penalty cases get appealed to the Attorney General's office and defended by the Attorney General. Well, I'm going to come in office and reverse that position. So, we will no longer proceed forward on any death penalty cases. I believe that life without parole is punishment enough for any crime. The death penalty has been proven to be, it's been shown as racially biased. It's very costly to taxpayers, and it's been wrong before. That's something that we can't afford to get wrong. There's no coming back from that. Secondly, we're going to create a community outreach division within the Attorney General's office, which has never existed before. And the goal with that is twofold. One, we're going to create a summer internship program for high school students across the state. I think we all know that a lot of kids end up getting in trouble because they simply don't have opportunities. And so we want to partner with our schools, our public schools, and partner with kids and give kids an opportunity to do something productive and meaningful in the summer, but then also engage with law enforcement in a positive and meaningful way, which ties into the second thing, which is being more visible and accessible in communities. We need to bridge the gap between police and law enforcement in Black communities. Right now, I think we've historically, there's always been a wall. There's always been an us versus them mentality. There's always been excessive brutality and excessive mistreatment of Black and brown communities by law enforcement. But I want to come in and build a bridge where we're going into communities on a consistent basis throughout my 4-year term across the state, where we're having forums and we're having just communion with the community, and we're engaging in non-confrontational and positive ways so that we can start to really build trust and really build a sense of community with law enforcement and minority communities. And then thirdly, I'll say within the first 100 days, we're going to do an audit of all of the outsourced contracts and vendors that the Attorney General's office uses. And my goal is to increase the number of percentage of minority-owned businesses that we work with, whether that's law firms or other vendors, and then women-led law firms and businesses as well. So I really want to bring equality. When I say equality, I don't just mean only in the criminal justice space, but I mean in all spaces and how we run that office and make sure that we're being more representative of what the state does. And then lastly, I'll add, two more things. Voting rights right now, we all know are under attack. And actually, the Attorney General in New York is a Black woman by the name of Letitia James. She actually filed an amicus brief on behalf of Georgia after SB 202 passed. She got about 22 other AGs from across the country to join her effort in defending us here and saying that SB 202 was unconstitutional. So I'm going to join with that collaborative and ask them to let me take the lead on it, since Georgia is home for me, so that we can try to undo what Republicans are trying to do in terms of restricting our right to vote. And then lastly, our access to affordable health care. Our current AG and so many other Republicans have been trying to do away with the Affordable Care Act. They label it as Obamacare. I believe that's a trigger word that Republicans use to try to demonize what it really does. And I have a master's degree in healthcare administration. I led a $70 million budget project at Grady the largest hospital in Atlanta, one of the largest in the Southeast. And I trained over 1,200 staff there, doctors and nurses, during that project. So understanding how important access to affordable healthcare is, especially when we start talking about small parts of the state where getting to a hospital or treatment facility is not as easy as it is in the bigger cities. Those are all things that I plan to do within the first 100 days to really turn around and change the narrative of how our Attorney General's office has always operated for decades before having an Attorney General like me, which we've never had before. So thank you for that question.
Robert, may I address that just briefly, because I think
Hey, I'm gonna defer to Julius Hall. He's the gatekeeper.
Go ahead.
Julius?
Mr. Floyd.
Yeah.
Address it.
Yeah, let me address that very briefly, because I think it's very important for the voters to understand that we have not had a Secretary of State, a Democratic Secretary of State, since Kathy Cox left in 2007. And by the way, Kathy is the president of Georgia College in Millersville. And when I become SEC, I will use her as a sounding board, and I'm not doing that now. But see, I just want to speak very briefly to day one, day two, because see, day one is going to be a very busy day of swearing in the executive, the statewide elected officials, and it's not going to be a lot I can do on day one and start implementing anything other than I am going to appoint a woman as
Look like you froze up again.
Yeah.
one of my deputies, and along with my
Mr. Floyd.
Well, let's go ahead and go to this question, Chandra, if you could. This is from Keyshawn. What innovations in energy could Georgia easily take advantage of? And could you see a collaboration with the DOT to build high-speed rail throughout Georgia, which I am an advocate of? Great question, Keyshawn.
Absolutely. Great question. I think we have a lot of innovations in Georgia right now that are being underutilized. And Georgia has become a top 10 state for solar due to actions of the Public Service Commission. However, that solar is utility scale, the majority of that, over 90% of that. So those are the big solar farms that we see all across the state when we're driving across South Georgia. What I really want to be an advocate for and see Georgia begin to move forward is our distributed clean energy. This is clean energy that is neighborhood sited and community scale. Most people understand this as rooftop solar we might see on people's homes. And we do have a commission that is actively blocking opportunities to grow this important market in Georgia. Rooftop solar is just not a way for people to have more affordable bills. It stabilizes energy costs over a long term, but it is also a job creator, and it is also an economic development lever, along with energy efficiency, which is something else that our utility has grossly underinvested in, and which our commission has not taken the opportunity to direct them. So I'm all about things that work. I'm all about things that we know that work, and I'm all about helping make sure that we can move forward at a rapidly accelerated pace. There are people in Georgia who need relief now from rising utility costs and high affordable bills. And we have strategies and opportunities that are not being pushed forward because of a public service commission that only wants to deliver what the utility wants, not what Georgians need. So just again, to restate, I will say we have existing innovations here in the state that are being underutilized. And that is where I would like to focus, is to make sure that clean energy is being a benefit to all Georgians, not just the utility. And as far as coordination with the DOT, I think that is critical. We've seen some commissioners who are champions for electric vehicles and lots of collaborations with nonprofit groups like the Ray, who has been working on a solar powered highway in LaGrange. But there are many other innovations that come along with that, including the expansion of solar in right-of-ways. So I definitely think the Public Service Commission has opportunities to expand its collaboration with other agencies like the DOT and like our state energy agency, which there haven't been very specific collaborations that we can speak of.
Okay. Well, I know.
I think I'm back.
Yeah, I see. You got to get somewhere where, like right there, if you pull over, then you won't have to worry about it buffering out. Because
Well, I pulled over. I pulled over a couple of times and sat there, and then I lost it again. So I'm gonna pull over at this location.
Okay.
Sorry about
All right.
that. Okay.
But may
I don't want to ask Mr. Wise Smith this question, because I think, Robert, we would have to have. He ain't frozen over there, is he?
No, Christian, you went to
Oh, okay. All right.
No, he's not doing it for rain.
Hey, Robert, we would have to have him on for a whole show.
Right. Well, my question is, when are you going to arrest Jay Jones?
We don't.
According to Savannah News, Jay Jones already been arrested.
Yeah, for real. Well, Mr. Wise, I mean, Ms. Smith, there's a lot of questions that our audience would like addressed, like how do you feel about Roe versus Wade, the new gang laws, the new voting laws. So these are questions for the Attorney General candidates that we need to get addressed. So I don't want to go into great detail with it, because I know that you can really talk on some issues. So
Yeah,
the can of worms, yeah.
If you want to hit them real short on both of them, so we can get to the next question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll keep my responses brief. So on Roe v. Wade, we need elected officials in office in our state and across the country who want to move us forward. It feels like Republicans keep doing things that move us backward towards slave times. And an attack on women and women's rights is an attack on all of us. So as Attorney General, I would issue a directive to all DAs across the state to not prosecute any woman or any doctor who wishes to obtain a safe abortion. On voting rights, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier about SB 202 and how an attorney general in another state is actually doing work on our behalf here in Georgia with about 22 other AGs. So I would join that collaborative to make sure, again, we're moving forward. We should be making voting more accessible and easier and not making it harder. And then your last question, you said Roe v. Wade, voting, and what was your last one?
The gang law.
The gang law.
Great question. So I'm actually in favor of the new gang law and giving the Attorney General more power and more authority over gangs. And here's why. I want to do something significantly different than anyone has ever done before. We're having a problem. We've always had a problem with white supremacist groups, whether it be the KKK, the Proud Boys, whoever. And so what I want to do as Attorney General is include those white supremacist organizations into the definition of gangs and go after and prosecute them the same way that folks have been prosecuting Black and brown folks for street gang activity. I want to do the same thing for white supremacist organizations. So that's why I'm in favor of the new gang law, because it will give me the authority to do just that.
Julius, if I could go to Chandra, I think this is important, Chandra, as we talk about, we brought this up, but if you could elaborate and share more with the viewers about the cancer-causing black folk killing Waynesboro, black folk killing Plant Vogel, and your thoughts about that.
So Plant Vogel has been a disaster for Georgia. So Plant Vogel is the nuclear power plant that is based in Waynesboro, Georgia, Burke County. Plant Vogel was built back in the 70s, units 1 and 2. That plant construction was over budget and behind schedule. And at the time, there were plans already to build onto that. So what we have right now in Georgia is Plant Vogel construction for units 3 and 4. This is the only nuclear power plant construction to happen in the United States in 30 years. It is about 7 years behind schedule, and it is about $15 billion over budget. When it is all said and done, this plant will be approximately, maybe probably over about $30 billion. That is more than the entire state budget of Georgia. This will go on record as the most expensive power plant ever built on the planet. And Georgians have been paying for Plant Vogel for over a decade without getting a single lick of energy from it. And every 6 months, the utility comes in front of the Public Service Commission to give an update. It's called the Vogel Construction Monitoring Report. And every 6 months, they need more money. They need another $1 billion here. They need another $1 billion there. They need another 6 months for this unit, and they need another year for this unit. And it is constantly being kicked down the road. The costs continue to mount, and those costs are being passed on to Georgians. So everyone, if you get a Georgia Power bill, there is something on your bill called NCCR. That is the Nuclear Cost Construction Recovery Fee. This is the fee that the Georgia legislature allowed to be charged to Georgians for this plant construction in advance. In advance. So there are people who have been paying into Plant Vogel for over a decade who will never see the benefit of it. And at the same time, Plant Vogel is being built in one of the blackest counties in the state, one of the poorest counties in the state. And back, you can talk to people there. You can talk about back in the 70s, how exciting it was that this plant was going to be built, and it was bringing economic development and it was bringing jobs, but how over the decades and years that dried up. You can go to Burke County now. So how do we make people are dying? They can't fish out of the water. They can't grow their own food. You can't directly link it to Plant Vogel. We can ask why. There have been multiple studies on this, but talk to the people in Burke County. Talk to the people who have been organizing around this burden. This is energy burden, okay? When we talk about energy burden, which is a metric of someone's monthly household utility bills to their amount of income, the higher the utility bills, the lower the income, the higher your energy burden. But we have to talk about energy burden in issues like Plant Vogel. Why must this community, Burke County, Waynesboro, the Savannah Riverside area, why do we have to die for energy? Why do we have to go broke for energy? We don't have to do that. There are other ways. Billions of dollars being spent on Plant Vogel every month. For the last decade, this is money that we could have been using to bring real renewable energy to Georgia, like more solar, more storage, right? With more solar and more storage built right here in Georgia, installed by Georgians, those are jobs. Those are economic development opportunities. So that is the thing about Plant Vogel. And one of the things we have to do is stop the bleeding and stop the unfair burdening of Georgians for the utilities mismanagement and mistakes. And so that is one of the things that will be a priority for me and has to become a priority for the commission, because the Public Service Commission has sole authority to say no to the utility When they come in August, this will be happening this year. In August, this case will go on for about 4 months, happening from August to November or December, where the utility will come in front of the commission and they will be asking to raise our rates again to continue paying for Plant Vogtle. And the Public Service Commission has the authority to say no, that the utility must begin to carry more of this burden.
Ooh. We're gonna have you on for a whole show too.
Her and our Patty. I think we got one here for Alicia, Julius.
Okay. Repealing Roe versus Wade opens the door for legislation that would deny public education access for undocumented children. How do we communicate the broad impact of this beyond the right of a woman to make her own healthcare decisions?
I'm not familiar with that policy or the discussions that are happening. I think she's saying in Texas. So I don't want to speak to that. I can tell you that I am pro-choice and believe that, young people ought to have access to information to make decisions for their bodies. And we know that if you have children, grandchildren, if you are around teenagers, you know that we live in a different world and we have to make sure that kids have access to information. I do want to take a second because I got to jump off in a couple of seconds, if that's okay.
Great.
There was another question in there about what legislation we would advocate for. One of the things that I really feel very passionate about is talking more about college. So yes, we want more than just college. We want students to attend college. I'm a college graduate. First in my family to graduate from college. I, believe in that. I'm Spelmanite, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But we have a whole lot of students who are not choosing college as their pathway, and they're being ignored in our schools. And so there was a bridge bill that we passed in 2010. I think the pandemic has caused schools to kind of go away from a lot of our programs and things that expose children to other careers and other options. And so one of the things that I would advocate for is more apprenticeship programs, more opportunities for students to be exposed to careers in the military, careers that lead to gainful employment right after high school. I think about right there in Savannah, you have films there being done, but you don't have the workforce to be able to work behind the scenes. They're having to bring people in from other states. And so how exciting would it be if there was a partnership with SCAD, if there was a partnership with labor unions in the area to train students in the Savannah area to prepare for those jobs while they're in high school. And so some of this work is already happening across the state. And I want to make sure that from an equity standpoint, that all of our students have access to those kinds of opportunities. Because we know that if they're not going to college, if they're graduating, and hopefully they are, and we want that diploma to mean something, we want them to go into jobs that they can really take care of their families and not become the young people that Mr. Smith is talking about, right? We want to be able to give them meaningful opportunities so they can contribute to society.
All right.
Okay. So you have to go. So that was your closing also?
No, let me close.
Why don't we go and do
No.
final thoughts? That's a great segue. We'll go with your final thoughts. So we'll go ahead with that. Great call, Julia. So Alicia, you begin, and then we'll go from there.
And
Final thoughts.
Again, thank you. I can see why you asked us in particular to come on in this moment. I think what is called for in this moment in history in Georgia and in this country are smart people who know what the heck they're doing, passionate people who care. I am the most qualified by far in my race. And I don't say that to brag, but those are facts. And we have to have someone who is qualified, who has run schools before, who's been a state legislator, who's worked in a Republican-controlled General Assembly and can still get things done and be about the children. And so I'm running because this is too important. And as I said the other day, yes, our names are on the ballot, but what's really on the ballot for me is the future of our education in this state. And so I want to use my experience, my passion, my background, And the fact that I've been prepared, frankly, all of my life for this moment. I've made history in Cobb County as the first African-American state representative. And I need you, Savannah, to help me make history and become the first African-American state school superintendent. Not for the sake of history, but because of the sake of our children. When I think about my 3 babies, I get up every single day to make sure that they have access to a high quality education. And I don't have 5 or 10 more years. I only have right now for them. And I only have right now for the 1.8 million students who will go to school on Monday, who may or may not have access to a high quality education because maybe they don't have the caring adult around them that they deserve. And I say time out for that and time out for trying to deliver a telegram education to a TikTok generation. Thank you for having me. I'm Alicia Thomas Searcy. You can follow me on Facebook, Searcy for State Superintendent, on IG, Searcy for Superintendent, website, searcyforsuperintendent.com. So if you get confused with all the names on the ballot, when you get to state school superintendent, just go SSSSS, State Superintendent Searcy. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
And we're going to claim that the only correction I'm making, instead of SCAD, we're going to put Savannah State University in that slot. Let's go with Chandra.
Let's do it. You all take care. Good to see everybody.
Right.
All right.
Miss Chandra Farley. No, excuse
Yes.
me. Commissioner Chandra Farley.
Thank you. Yes, let's speak it. Commissioner Farley here. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Julius, and to the other candidates and everyone for joining. I am an activist at heart. I was raised by grandparents who remember not being able to vote. And they attended segregated schools, and those schools were later my elementary schools. And they instilled in me a sense of duty to always do what I can to advance justice and fairness. If there is one thing I have learned after spending more than the last decade of my life working on issues of energy, working on climate change, working on utility accountability, I am clear that where our energy comes from and how our utilities are priced is an issue of justice and fairness. I am running for Public Service Commission because I have spent a lot of time in front of the All-Republican Commission, standing shoulder to shoulder with Georgians who are already overburdened by rising utility costs and unaffordable bills. It's time that Georgians, not just the utility, have a voice at the Public Service Commission, and I intend to be that voice. The community benefits that flow from affordable bills, clean energy for all, environmental justice, and utility accountability depend on a new voice and a new way at the Public Service Commission. That is what I intend to bring to the Georgia PSC. I would like to ask for your vote and for your help spreading the word, not just about me and why I am the best and most qualified candidate to ever actually run for Public Service Commission, but why the Public Service Commission is important to a Georgia which has an affordable, equitable, and innovative quality of life and future for all Georgians. Thank you.
All right. This is Secretary of State Floyd Griffin's time, I think.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry about the inconvenience today as I moved along. Each time I parked somewhere, I ended up losing the signal. So I hope I can finish this.
We need more broadband.
Look, the Secretary of State is about what I have been doing for over 5 decades in the professional world. It's about executive level leadership, executive level management, and executive level experience. And I am the best qualified person to deliver. Not because I'm saying this, it's based on facts. The last lieutenant governor, Democratic lieutenant governor, Mark Taylor, and I served together in the Senate. We ran against each other for lieutenant governor and he won. But Mark and I remained friends over the years. And he has come out and endorsed my candidacy, and he stated that Floyd Griffin is the best person to become the next Secretary of State at this point in time. Plus, you can go and view my website. That website is very detailed. My experience is deep and wide. So go to that website. Now, when you go to the website, floydforgeorgia.com, floydforgeorgia.com. Don't go in there and think you're going to finish that in 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Take the time, about 20 or 30 minutes. Now, I'm telling you, to look at that website, because it is all factual information. It's no doggone fluff in there. Now, I also want to let you all know that Floyd Griffin is not looking to become governor, lieutenant governor, U.S. senator, or even president. All I want to do is be Secretary of State and go in there and clean that mess up that we are dealing with at this point in time. So I ask for your vote and your support during this early voting and election day, the 24th of May, and that is my birthday. So give me a birthday present.
Well, we're going to
Thank
try
you.
to deliver and give you that birthday present that you are looking for. So happy birthday to you if we don't talk again. And we are glad
Yes,
that
sir.
we know everybody's on the campaign trail. We had 3 or 4 of the candidates that were traveling today, and the three of y'all tried to get in, even though you all were traveling on the campaign trail. So, Mr. Christian Wise Smith, we left you for last. You know why, right?
If we ever get in trouble, man, listen now. Come on now. We need you.
Hey,
Well,
by the way, Julius,
Yes, sir.
I just want to let you all know I'm definitely supporting Brother Smith. We need a black attorney general.
Y'all can't get out of free jail
Yes, sir.
card. Y'all better quit now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I already voted for him on Monday.
Right.
All y'all
Go ahead,
up there, I
Brother Smith.
well, thank y'all. Thank you. I got to start just by saying, thank you, good brothers, for the opportunity to come on your platform to introduce myself. Thank you to the other candidates. Thank you to Senator Griffin. I've met him several times, and he has been super, super helpful to me in terms of wisdom and just being on the campaign trail. But I got to say to everybody and everybody across I'm asking you guys to be careful. We keep saying we want change, but we keep electing the same kind of people. And the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I'm asking for us to be extremely bold by electing me. I'd be the youngest attorney general we've had. I'm 39. I'd be the first progressive attorney general we've ever had, not only in Georgia, but in the South. I'd be the only attorney general in Georgia who has served as a prosecutor first, who has a master's degree, and who has written and passed legislation. My opponent in this Democratic primary has been a state senator, but has never authored legislation that was voted and passed on in is law now in our state. I was chief of staff in Atlanta City Council. I wrote laws on behalf of the council member I worked for that still stand today in the city of Atlanta. So when we talk about experience, although, yeah, I'm young, yeah, I'm different, but my experience has already made impact in the state of Georgia. And I'm asking for your vote so that we can now make a big, big impact in our criminal justice system, a big impact in terms of our voting rights, our access to healthcare, and all things that the Attorney General does that should protect all of us instead of small groups that only certain people tend to favor. My name is Christian Wise Smith. The website is wisesmith4ga.com. That's wisesmith, the number 4ga.com. Facebook, Christian Y. Smith, IG at Christian Y. Smith, Twitter, Chris Y. Smith. So again, be bold. We have the opportunity to make history. I'd be our second Black Attorney General in Georgia behind Thurman Baker, but I'd only be the 12th Black Attorney General in U.S. history. So we have the opportunity to do something really, really big. If we get things right here in Georgia, I believe we'll influence the rest of the South. And then once we influence the rest of the South, I think the rest of the country will start to do things that we have led the trail on. So thank you guys again for the opportunity. Y'all know I can talk, so I'm going to stop talking now. Just remember, be bold, vote Christian Y. Smith for Attorney General, and let's make the change that we've been wanting to see for decades. We have the chance to do that right now. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Stay on 1 minute after we close.
Right. And so thank you all for appearing. I want to remind our viewers that early voting has started. For those of us in Chatham County, I think Julius and I both went to the Civic Center. You're in and out. Don't take this opportunity for granted. The last time we took an opportunity to vote for granted, Roe versus Wade will be overturned, and it's happening right now. Do not take voting for a chance, because your rights, your liberties, and the joys you enjoy every day of living can be taken away from you because of your laziness. If you don't want to go out and vote early, vote on voting day or get your absentee ballot. But do not take this for granted, or we will continue to lose the things that we enjoy on a daily basis. Julius, what you got to say? We'll close out.
Well, that's about it. Y'all stay on 1 minute so we can talk to y'all for 1 second. Jay, you want to say anything? We also know that our chairman here of the county commission, he's running for the first district here. So Commissioner Jones, Chairman Jones, you want to say anything? You muted.
No, sir, I didn't want. I think my good friend Mr. R.G. Bryant closed us out perfectly. Let's get on the campaign trail. Let's make sure we show up so we can show up in November the 8th and close this thing on all the way out. So I appreciate y'all for taking the time to talk to South Georgia again, and I'll be talking to y'all again. God bless.
All right, we'll see y'all next Saturday. The Watch Dogs at noon. Make sure you watch the other shows on our Black Media Network, and have a wonderful weekend. Take care.